All right, welcome back. Rolling along on a Tuesday. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro 2-year anniversary of the October 1 shooting. Left 58 people dead. It's one of those things where we want to hear your stories. And just coming up here in just a few minutes, we're going to talk to Orion Kawamoto, who was at the Route 91 festival. He was there representing the Coyote here in this building, which is a great country station, by the way. So we're going to hear from him in a second, but I want to get to a few of the calls. 257-5396 is the number to call again, 257-5396. I want to talk to Juliet, who is a first responder. Juliet, thank you so much for calling in and your patience. How are you?
Hi. Well, I just want to say a few things. I was on that night. I was right down the street on Tropicana, and I heard the shots.
Oh, my. Now, you're an EMT?
No, I'm a police officer.
So you're a police officer. I just want to make sure people understand. So you're a police officer. Mm-hmm. You were working that night. You're saying
right,
you were on
graveyard.
You were on Tropicana. What? Maybe like a mile down the road from the shooting? Is that fair?
Yes,
okay.
Exactly. About a mile down the road, and I have my windows open, and I heard the shots.
Oh my gosh!
And that's all I heard.
What did you think? What it was? What did you think was going on? Like right away?
It did sound like a machine gun. It did.
So what do you do?
Well, basically, I was just listening, and I stopped my car. And then a few minutes later, people are running toward me. And the most significant thing was these people are coming toward me, and of course, I'm checking them, to see if they're okay. And they have blood all over them.
Oh, my God.
And they had no injuries.
So, Juliet, you're driving towards the shooting, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you're a hero. Let me just say that right off the bat. You're a hero. There's a lot of people that wouldn't be able to do what you do. So let's start off by saying you and many of the other responders are heroes. Okay, so you're driving towards the shooting. You're telling me you see people running towards you with blood all over them. What are you doing next? What is going through your mind at that time?
I stopped, but I didn't understand. I didn't know about the concert. There's always stuff going. There's always events,
right.
But I didn't know about the concert. However, I see these people running toward me, and I'm like, "What's going on?" And I didn't understand why they had blood all over them. But I'm checking them for injuries, and they have no injuries. I didn't understand until later the extent of why.
Now, were you on the actual crime scene?
No, I didn't go up to the crime scene because I was down the road, and what we were doing is me and my partner were getting them. We were getting them into the ambulances because the ambulances now started coming to us, and we were giving them shelter to help them feel safe. And a lot of these people had nowhere to go.
I would imagine some of these injuries were probably fairly serious, were they not?
The people that were running to me had no injuries.
They just had blood all over them from others that they were either trying to save or, oh, my goodness.
Which was horrible.
Oh, my gosh.
And like I said, at that time, I didn't understand why. Until after, of course. And, of course, I kept my composure. I stayed late, and I'm helping everybody. But it wasn't until, I got home, and, I sat down, and I cried. It was... It was,
Juliet, are you still
my emotions intact, and then when I got home, I just let go.
Are you still a police officer?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I'm not going to ask you questions about Metro and that sort of stuff. I don't want to get you in trouble, but, well, listen, thank you so much for what you do. You're a hero, as I would say that to many others that night that have done so many great things on October 1, and as they do every day. I appreciate your story, Juliet. Obviously, it affects you. You're a human being. And it affects all of us. And thank you for what you do in that story.
If you don't mind,
sure.
I want to thank the medical staff, the nurses, the doctors.
Sure.
To me, those people, all we had to do was get them to the nurses and doctors.
I agree.
And the staff. And
what about the people that were
heroes?
And what about and even the people that loaded bodies into their trucks and all the good Samaritans? You're absolutely right, Juliet. And we need to point all those people out because they're all heroes just like yourself. Thank you for mentioning that.
I am nothing better than them.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Juliet, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for listening.
All right. Thank you, Juliet. So the guy we have with us in studio right now, and we're going to take your calls, by the way, coming up here in just a few minutes at 257-5396. But the guy we have with us in studio right now, his name is Ryan Kawamoto. He works for the Coyote, which is the country station here in Las Vegas, top-rated station. And, Ryan, you were there that night. You were representing the station. By the way, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Oh, no problem.
So tell me how your night starts. You're headed to the show. Give me the background before the shooting happens. Just tell me how your night's going.
Well, actually, I was over at a different remote first. It was over at the downtown Las Vegas Event Center for a football remote.
Mm-hmm.
Then I headed there later that afternoon, met up with the rest of the promotion staff, and everything was fine. I mean, everybody was having fun, and then it happened.
Where are you? Where are you when you hear the first shots?
We were located near the porta potty area.
Okay.
And the first set of shots, a couple of my coworkers thought it was actually fireworks,
Which many people did.
right. And then it got a little quiet, and then a second round of shots happened, and it was like, wait a second, those are gunshots. And then by the third time, all you saw was like a bunch of people just running all over the place.
Did you see anybody get shot?
I did not. I did not see anybody get shot.
So by the third round of shots, are you running too?
Yes, we decided to, start running. I think there was at the tent at that time, at the Coyote tent, we had about 4 of us.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of people went to the staging area,
Mm-hmm.
and then 4 of us, we were at the tent. All of a sudden, when we decided to leave, it ended up just being the 3 of us. The other person ran in a different direction.
And when this is going on, are shots still being fired?
Yes.
Did you believe that it was from Mandalay Bay when all this was going on? What did you think was happening?
Honestly, when the music was shut off and you could just hear the gunshots, it sounded like it was getting louder and louder.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was right in the festival. That's how loud it was.
So you're part of all the people, and this happened very fast. Keep in mind, the shooting lasted only 10 minutes or so, which I would imagine to people that were there felt like hours.
It did. It felt like forever.
Which I understand. So you're part of the crew after the third round of shots are going on. You're running out of there. You're like, oh, my God, this is really bad, right? This is really bad.
Well, we couldn't find an exit area, so we actually went into the porta potty area. We saw a bunch of people like running into the porta potties and locking themselves in,
which isn't going to help you when bullets are being fired. Yeah,
and
but I understand. I mean,
right?
Yeah,
and we decided, you know what, we need to jump this fence and get out of here.
And that's
what we did.
So you jumped the fence. Do you think that was an issue? That there were a lot of people that were trying to figure out a way out and couldn't find an exit? Because I heard from other people like yourself that there were only a few ways of getting out of there.
Yeah, I think that was a huge problem. I think there's only one exit that I knew of.
You think that could have cost lives because people couldn't get out of there?
I think so.
I mean, yeah, if it went on for 10 minutes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're just a guy showing up to work, doing a remote with the Coyote,
mm-hmm.
and you're all of a sudden involved in, and you're right there, what is the worst mass shooting in the history of this country. You're running out. You finally jump the fence. You get out of there. Then what do?
Well, I was telling my supervisor the best thing to do is probably run into a casino because they have security there.
Absolutely.
And it's well lit. So we hopped the fence. Again, the porta potties was located on the backside.
Mm-hmm.
And so the closest casino was the Tropicana.
Right. I know people went to Tropicana, people went to Hooters and all those places, yep.
So we got into Tropicana, and it was a mad rush. We ran into, like, the service area,
mm-hmm.
and as we were running down the hall, we hear a large stampede, like, running towards us. So we had to turn around. We eventually saw, like, a closet, mm-hmm. like a storage closet. We went into the closet and decided it wasn't a good idea to hide in there. And we got out. We went into the storage, not the storage, but the service elevator.
Yep.
Got up to the casino, and before the doors were closing, people were actually pushing other people out, not letting them into the service elevator because it was so filled.
Oh my gosh!
But by the time we got to the casino floor, people were like walking briskly.
But keep in mind, at this point, you have no idea what's going on.
Right.
You don't know if it's a terrorist attack. You don't know if there are other casinos. There were rumors going on that there were shootings at other casinos at that time. You have no idea what's going on. You don't know that this is just one shooter, in Mandalay Bay up there on one of the floors. So I understand. I would have been freaking out. I wouldn't have known. But you're right. A casino was probably the best place for you to go to at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree. So you're walking around the casino floor, and as hours pass, what are you doing? Do you drive home? What's the next step for you? Because I would imagine your vehicle, the Coyote vehicle, which you were driving, there's no way you can get back there.
Right. We couldn't.
So what do you do?
Well, basically, so from the Tropicana, all of a sudden, people are walking briskly.
Mm-hmm.
Then we hear somebody yelling, "There's a shooter in the casino!" So everybody started running out.
Oh, geez. Wait, in Tropicana?
In Tropicana,
Oh,
yes.
boy.
And so we got out of the Tropicana. We were running on Las Vegas Boulevard. And you're right. At the time, nobody knew what was going on. And we heard like security from different casinos as we were running down the street that there's a shooter at this place. There's a bomb at the Luxor.
Oh,
and
boy.
so we, at the time, thought it was a terrorist attack.
Sure.
And so basically what my supervisor and I did, we ended up running all the way down and ended up at the Hard Rock.
Whoa, so that's like a mile at
Yeah.
least. So you ran a mile to the Hard Rock. Oh, my goodness. How long did it take you guys to get that vehicle? Because that was part of the crime scene, right?
Right. So we didn't get our actual station vehicle till a couple of days, I think, after that. And then to get our tent and our equipment, we had to wait for, I think it was like a couple of weeks.
Right, because the investigation, the
Right.
crime scene, people had cell phones, clothes, you name it. I heard for even upwards of a month they weren't able to get it back. Well, first of all, thank God that you made it through okay, and you weren't one of those people that were hurt, injured, or even killed, number one. I guess my question to you now, this is 2 years later, so what goes through your mind when you wake up this morning? I mean, I imagine that's something that you never forget. We all have traumatic things happen in our lives, but I've had never something like this. This is the biggest mass shooting in the history of the country. What goes through your mind now, 2 years later, after that horrible night that you were a part of, unfortunately?
Basically, the memory just never goes away. And I always think about it. For months, I could not sleep. I probably had an hour's worth of sleep here and there. But it definitely was a very traumatic experience. I went to a Bruno Mars concert ending of last year.
Right.
And they had pyrotechnics going off. And when it went off, I'm not going to lie, I jumped up and seriously thought of leaving the concert.
So you have PTSD from this?
I'm not sure. I never went to see anyone
we have somebody coming on the show here next hour. Her name is Terry Keener. She's from the Vegas Strong Resiliency Center. These are exactly the type of things that she deals with. She's going to be coming up here in just a few minutes. If you're just joining us, we're speaking with Ryan Kawamoto, who works for the country station here, the Coyote. He's giving us his story the night that he was there at the Route 91 festival.
Have you been to any major festivals since?
No, I have not.
Wow.
Personal choice?
You know what? I think I would go, but I would be very, very aware of of my surroundings. I mean, I could tell you after that incident that happened, we had like a couple of events where I would constantly like look at the buildings and look around, just to make myself feel safe.
Of course, but what you're going through is quite normal. I'm sure there's hundreds and probably thousands of people that go through every day what you go through since this horrible night. I guess let's take some, and by the way, thank you for sharing your story. That's
no problem.
It's horrific. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Thank God you got through it okay. Why don't we take a couple phone calls on this? And by the way, the number to call is 257-5396. Again, that number to call is 702-257-5396 if you want to share some of your stories. Let's go to Marge. Marge, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Well, it's a very sad day to begin with, and I did hear Steve Sisolak talk this morning about even thanking the people that were at that casino, that they helped out, because I think they're kind of forgotten in a way. So I appreciated his comments on that. Mine was I was looking at a movie, and I was going to turn in that night early. And I thought, well, I'm going to get the weather. So I turned down a regular station.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw all these cars coming down Las Vegas Boulevard. And I'm like, what the world is going on? And then, of course, everything unfolded. Probably sat up until 3 o'clock that morning watching TV. But on a side note to all of this, I was scheduled for some major surgery on the 3rd of October. And I thought myself, on a personal note, am I going to even have surgery?
Oh,
because
wow.
I can just imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that part of the story, I've not heard of other people having a situation like that.
Yeah.
But that part of the story, I think, I probably share with a number of other people that may
no
have
doubt.
been displaced.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I had a number of errands to do on the 2nd because I was going to go, and on the 3rd, there's a blood bank that's near where I'm at.
Right.
And I saw a line of people. I mean, it extended around the block. It just went on forever.
It's amazing that through tragedy, Marge, it's amazing how, we all come together. We saw it 9/11. We saw it right here in Las Vegas. And, some people might think that the Vegas strong thing is kind of cliche. I don't think it is. I think it means something, and it shows that, we have a lot of resiliency in Las Vegas. Marge, thank you so much for sharing your story. We really do appreciate it.
Okay, thanks.
And 257-5396. There's so many stories like that. 257-5396 if you want to be a part of the conversation. Let's go to Tom. Tom, my understanding is that you were working at the Paris the night of the shooting. Is that correct?
Yeah, can you hear me, Brian?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Yeah, tell us your story.
What's up, Tom?
Okay, so I work at the Paris, and I got off work that night right around 10 o'clock, and so I drive south to Harmon, and then I usually take the Harmon overpass across the Strip, and as I was crossing the Strip at about 10 minutes after 10, there was no indication that anything was going on. It seemed completely normal. So when I get across I-15 to Dean Martin, I noticed that all the traffic on I-15 South is stopped, and I'm thinking, there must be a bad accident. So I take Dean Martin south to Tropicana, where I normally would make a left turn and get the I-15 South, but there's police cars there, and the cops are making everybody go westbound on Tropicana. And, of course, I'm thinking, wow, it must be a really bad accident. So I'm going west on Tropicana by Valley View, and several ambulances start going past me, and that's when I start thinking, wow, this must be really bad. And then all of a sudden I get a text message from my daughter asking me if I am okay. And
wow.
And of course I'm like, yeah, what's going on? And the text message said there's been a shooting on the Strip by Mandalay Bay. So I get home, and of course I turn it on, and that's when I start to learn what's going on. And I check my Facebook, and I knew 4 people who on Facebook earlier in the evening had posted that they had been at the concert, but none of them have had a post since. So I started sending messages to these people. One girl, she had actually posted a selfie of herself and her boyfriend at like 9:41, and other people had posted stuff earlier, and none of them had had any posts since. And I remember sending messages to these people, are you okay? And I know by like 1 o'clock in the morning, I still had not heard from any of them. And I remember just being overcome with this feeling like I probably lost some friends tonight. And eventually I couldn't sleep at all that night, and eventually at like 3 o'clock in the morning, one girl posted that she was okay, and then by 6 o'clock in the morning, I'd been able to get in contact with the other 3, so thankfully I didn't lose any friends that night.
Oh, gosh.
But I remember the next day just reading all the different stories of people who had been there, and let me just end my story by saying that I had to work again that day, and
oh boy.
I normally take Tropicana, but that day I didn't take Trop because it was still a crime scene, so I took Flamingo, and I remember, arriving at work at around 3:30, and of course there I am on the Strip by the Bellagio Water Show and Mona Migabi, and here I am only like 1 mile away from a crime scene, and of course there's people eating lunch on Mona Mi and people watching the Bellagio Water Show, and it was just a real surreal feeling. But,
Tom, what was the vibe like the next day when you went to work?
Very strange. Of course, it was very subdued, and of course you're getting tables who are celebrating a birthday anniversary, and there you are trying to be joyous and talk to them about specials and make wine recommendations, and here you are talking about a $100 bottle of wine, and meanwhile there's a mass shooting crime scene going on just
and many
a mile away.
And many of the dead bodies were still at that crime scene, my understanding.
Yeah, so it was strange. I mean, there we were on the Strip doing our thing, and of course people in the casino gambling, and people eating their steak and
life
lobster.
as usual.
It's hard to go back to business as usual at that point, I would imagine.
No question. Well, Tom, first of all, thank you for your story. We're glad you're okay. We're glad your friends made it through okay. I appreciate that story very much. Thank you for the phone call.
Hey, thanks for the call,
Thank you,
Tom.
man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Ryan, since you're still here, we got a few minutes here before we go to break. Did you know anybody at that shooting that was injured or lost their life?
I personally didn't know anybody, but my my son's friend went to the show, and his mom was one of those that passed away.
Oh, God, it's horrible.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this, Ryan. What do you think of that place that is now turned into a pay-to-park parking lot? You lived through this, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Your opinion matters. Those who lost their lives, those were injured, everybody that was involved, their opinion. So what is your opinion on that? Do you think it should just never be used again? Do you think it should be, some sort of vigil that should always be? Like, what do you think should happen to that property?
I think it should never be used again.
Mm-hmm.
I think they should just leave that place alone, in my opinion.
I think MGM Properties, I think they have enough money where they're not going to be hurting. I tend to agree with you. I think it should be some sort of vigil where people can go and pay tribute to all the lives that were lost. I think that would be the best way to handle that. It doesn't have to be a pay to park. So, yeah, I agree with you 100% on that. So we're going to take more phone calls on this at 257-5396. Ryan, thank you again for sharing your story. We appreciate that, and we hope nobody ever has to go through that again. Gosh, it's horrible. But thank you for your story. We appreciate it. So when we come back, we're going to be speaking with a woman by the name of Terry Keener. She's a social worker with the Vegas Strong Resiliency Center for stuff that Ryan has had to go through or anyone else that has been associated with this horrific day. She helps these people on a regular basis. So we're going to hear from her. And if you're one of those people that maybe is afraid to call in, you don't want to share your story, which is totally fine, you might want to listen to this next segment, though, because she helps people in dealing with these sorts of things. And it doesn't, by the way, it doesn't have to be October 1. It could be any tragedy, anything that you've been involved in. So she'll be coming up here in just a few minutes, and we'll be taking your calls, of course, at 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call is 257-5396. Also important to note, the Golden Knights president will be joining us here in hour number 3. They have some special events taking place today for first responders, victims, and families. The Knights were such a huge part of October 1 2 years ago. So really important to get somebody from the Golden Knights on the show today to talk a little bit about that. We'll take your calls. And yes, we are following this guilty verdict in the Amber Geiger case. We will get to that as well. Take your phone calls at 257-5396. Be back right after this. You are listening to The Vegas Take. The Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro back at you on a Tuesday, 2-year anniversary of the October 1 shooting that left 58 people dead and many others injured. We were talking briefly about what they should do with this site, and we had Ryan Kawamoto in studio here, who works for the Coyote, who was there that night, and he said they shouldn't do anything with that. They should just leave it as is, don't have any events there. I actually tend to agree with him there, but we got a caller on the line who has a suggestion of what they should do with that property. Theo, I believe.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, Theo, what's your suggestion? What do you think they should do?
Well, I think they should go ahead and pay to park is great as long as they give a couple dollars to each, to the victim families out of that.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest with you, Theo.
I can agree with that.
If they did do that, I wouldn't have so much of a problem with it.
That's what I'm saying. As long as the victims' families make something out of it, and not just MGM.
But guess what?
I'm
They're not
good with
doing it. Guess what? They're not doing that. And they also sued the victims. The victims sued them, and then they will go back and sue the victims. It's a disgrace. Theo, thank you so much for that. And by the way, you are absolutely right. They should be doing that, and I would have a much better feeling about everything, no question.
Yeah, it's tough with this one because the Las Vegas Strip is one of the most profitable places on definitely in the United States.
So give a percentage.
Exactly. I mean, I understand that you don't want tourists to think, because you have a million people visiting every single week.
Sure.
You don't want them thinking about the possibility of them dying. You want them happy, spending money, enjoying their experience in Vegas. Cross it off their bucket list, so to speak.
Who do we want to take care of? The victims and their families.
There should be some type of memorial there.
There is
on site.
There is,
and there should be, I would say, 15 to 20% of the proceeds go to the families. That makes perfect sense to me.
They're not going to do that. The memorial is going to be there, but to me, that's not enough. I agree with you. There needs to be a percentage that goes to the victims and the families. You're 100% right. I agree. So joining with us on the line right now, we had Ryan in studio who was there, and he shared his story about the stress that he still has to deal with from that fateful night. And there are many others in Las Vegas and throughout the country that have to deal with these types of things, sadly, because there are so many of these mass shootings that we talk about. So Terry Keener's on the line with us right now. She is a social worker with the Vegas Strong Resilience Center, helping people deal with these types of horrific things that happen to them in their life. Terry, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Appreciate that. So since it is the 2-year anniversary of October 1, obviously it brings back some horrible memories for a lot of people, I would imagine. In the October 1 survivors that you deal with, what are some of the more basic things that you can share with us that they have to deal with on a regular basis?
Well, the memories can be brought back by this time of the year, this commemorative 2-year time frame, and so people are feeling some of the same feelings they felt at that time: grief, anger, sadness, anxiety, feeling all alone. And so we do have some ideas for people to deal with those things.
Now, I know it's a case-by-case basis, Terry, and I totally understand that. But if there are people listening right now, they're not sure whether they should call you up or get some help, what would you say to them?
Well, if you're not sure, I would say go ahead and reach out. If not to the Resiliency Center, then to someone who will understand and listen, and ask questions and see what you can find out about what's available to help you.
I know this is a very general question, and I understand it's a case-by-case basis. But for somebody in general who has gone through a very traumatic experience, like this October 1 shooting, and again, I know this is general advice, but what type of general advice would you give somebody that is dealing with this sort of thing?
I think that no matter how you're reacting or what you're feeling, it's natural and normal. Like you said, it's individual to each person. Reach out to someone who can help. Understand that it's normal to have a reaction. No one can experience something that traumatic and that major and not be impacted in some way.
And make no mistake about it, right? It's not like what you do. You just, everything goes away. No, that's not how this works, right? This is something that you have to deal with for the rest of your life, right? And it never goes away. But what you do is you just help people deal with it. How do I go about my daily life in dealing with it, right? Is that a fair assessment?
That is. It doesn't go away, but it can become part of your history and not remain in your present.
How many people, Terry, do you think you've had to help personally, just yourself, when it comes to the October 1 shooting that took place 2 years ago?
Gosh, I really couldn't even say, because some of our interactions are very minimal and some are more lengthy. We do have over 10,000 people registered with us at the center that have received some type of help.
So give out the information, because obviously the work you're doing is great, and I know we all in the community appreciate what you guys do at the Vegas Strong Resiliency Center. You've helped so many people. Give out the information so people can find you, and people, just somebody could just give you a call and get more information, and maybe even they know a family member or a friend that needs some help. Give out that information.
Okay, so the phone number is 702-455-2433. We have a website. It's vegasstrongrc.org, and there's additional information there about how to email the center. We do have extended hours today and tomorrow. Actually, I'm sorry, just for today. Mm-hmm. And we are ready to answer the phones or your emails regarding whatever it is your individual needs are.
Well, Terry, thank you so much for giving that information out and for the great work that you guys do there at the Vegas Strong Resiliency Center. We appreciate it, and we hope if people need help, they give you a call. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. There you go. Terry Keener, social worker with the Vegas Strong Resiliency Center. Wow, they really do a fantastic job. And by the way, this isn't just about October 1. If you've been through something traumatic in your life, give them a call because they will help you out. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, this is breaking news that we've been covering. I alluded to it earlier in the program. Amber Geiger, the woman who was a former Dallas cop who goes into an apartment that she thought was hers, kills an innocent African-American man. She has been convicted of murder. And I'm going to explain to you, and I've said this before, that I didn't think race was a factor in this case. When we come back, I'm going to explain to you why now I think I was wrong and I think race was a factor, and I think that's why she has been convicted of murder. I will explain to you why when we come back. You're listening to The Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.